Well, welcome everybody. Good morning. This is our weekly LotLinx market data report. And every week, the numbers are fluctuating. We're here to help you sell more cars by being more informed of what the market's doing. I'm Jennifer Suzuki. I'm the president of eDealer Solutions. We are a digital sales phone training company. And I've got some great people on the phone here today on our call. First, we have the founder of LotLinx, that's Lynn Short. Woo! We got a president, Lynn, president of LotLinx, that's Neil Gann, and my friend Rick Trottier. He's a GM of Peters Honda on the call today. So we are seeing a lot changing from last week. It's incredibly exciting. I see a lot of optimism from dealers, but the numbers are also reporting the same thing. I think this past week, I heard it time and time again. I heard things like, this was the best month we've ever had. This was the biggest day we've ever had. This is the biggest weekend we ever had. And I'm excited to have my friend Rick on the phone today. He also had a really big weekend and a big day yesterday. I'll let him share some of that good news with you. But overall, it looks like the market's recovering, and a lot of things in the climate, is changing. Stock market's up. Dealers are offering more services to customers like touchless pickup delivery. But we'll get into some of the numbers here and see what's changed nationally from last week to this week. We'll look at what's trending, and we'll look at the best and the worst performing markets and identify, what are some of the changing factors. Look, I think that, again, it always comes back to know the data, having the right data, have your finger on the pulse, right people, process equals results. So we'll cover all of the new changes here shortly. Then we'll hear from Rick. I want to hear from a dealer, what's going on in his market, what is he anticipating, what's he see changing in his store, what do we attribute that to? And last week, we spent a little bit of time talking about VVO. Once we got into it, which is at the end of our call last week, I started getting really excited, and I was sad we had to cut it short. But I want to pick back up where we left off with VVO. I do think that this is a competitive advantage. One of the reasons why I wanted to get involved with delivering this information is because I help dealers literally every single day of every week. It is a passion of mine. And when I saw the LotLinx data and software, I wanted to make sure that we did everything we could to share it with every dealer out there who needs a competitive advantage right now. So then we'll open up the end and ask some questions. So let's, and feel free, guys, along the way to not only ask about the data that you're seeing here on the screens, but feel free to ask, what comes next, what do we do in our sales process? Many people are changing their messaging out there, which is attributing, I think, to an increase in internet leads. I just talked to one of our clients this morning who said internet lead traffic has gone up, but the numbers here are going to tell us what people are doing as far as shopping, if they're engaging on automotive sites, and if they're pulling the trigger and purchasing. So one thing that you can see here is that still overall down in sales, but it's tightening up here. We've got Len on the call. Can you tell us a little about where this data comes from?
Yeah, so we index and have feeds of all the inventory on the market and how that's turning over, the days on lot, pricing, et cetera. We have a full view into the market. And we decided to open that up because I thought there'd be nothing more valuable to a dealer than to be able to see what was really happening in this market. The headlines are different than the reality on the ground.
Yes.
And we wanted dealers to have good information to make good decisions about how they manage their business going forward. You can see here we've had this steady. We hit a low in the first week of April. That's the blue line. That's the actual sales pace. The black line is how we came into this end of February, beginning of March. So that's the pace we were on end of February, beginning of March. Everybody should, remember that, first quarter is always kind of slightly, suppressed in terms of sales pace, but we're marking everything versus how we came into this whole virus, episode. And it fell off quite sharply beginning of April. It hit a bottom, but the good news is you can see it has steadily recovered since then. Mm-hmm. And I think that's because dealers have figured out how to operate and consumers have figured out how to operate in the new reality. A lot of markets are selling cars even though they remain sort of hard shutdown markets. So we've seen a steady recovery, down, and this is showing new car sales, down just slightly over where we were nationally, over where we were when this all started. We're down 3%, which is good news. And as Jennifer said, a lot of markets are having a big snapback. One other thing I want to point out before I shut up here is normally you see that blue line up with the orange line. That's the number of real buyers that are in the marketplace. We have technology that, figures all that out, and we could bore everybody with how, but it's, there's a lot of stuff that happens online, but, you have to organize it down to who's real across devices and who's really going to buy versus people just clicking around. Most of the clicks are people just playing. So normally those two lines line up. Shopper volumes may lead sales, and then you see sales kind of rise up to meet it, and then sometimes that's added shopper volume. So during this period, we saw those two lines separate, and that's a picture of pent-up demand.
Okay.
That means that more people were intending to buy a car, but couldn't. So they were planning to do it, and that's why you see it sort of pushing way up over the pre-COVID levels, because they were kind of frustrated they couldn't follow through. But as they've been able to follow through over the past 3-4 weeks, those lines have started to come back together where they should be. And, so we're starting to normalize in terms of the balance of the people who want to buy a car and the people who are buying cars. And that's the way it should be on the market.
Well, it's nice to see these numbers changing from last week to this week. It's certainly what I'm hearing from our dealer clients too. I think last week on the call, we talked about, sensing this pent up feeling that it was, about to just be on the brink, and then bam, it exploded this weekend. So, seeing growth, all of this is good. The climate is changing. Even though you're seeing these increases, I always remind my dealer clients, look, we want to strengthen our market share, but don't let your guard down. Don't let your guard down ever, and keep your finger on the pulse. So let's look at our next slide.
Okay.
And another bit of good news here. Let's look at best performing markets. And these are our top 20 right now. So take a good look here.
Yeah, you can see that Pennsylvania, most of the top performing markets are Pennsylvania markets. That was the early hard shutdown market. They're starting to snap back. So Wilkes-Barre, Altoona, Erie, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, Philly, that's all, those are the market leaders in terms of the recovery. That's great news for the Pennsylvania market.
Yeah, no, that's excellent.
By the way, this week we saw, a large number, most of the markets were improving. A couple were flat, a couple continued to drift down, but overwhelmingly everything's improving. And there were 114 markets that went into positive sales territory, meaning that 114 markets were selling more cars this week than back in early March when we entered this whole mess. So that's very good. It's very much a rolling recovery. It's not the same everywhere, but that's really good. Some markets are actually outperforming where they were before.
How many markets are you pulling from?
Yeah, we look at 200 on DMAs. So DMA is a market area. Rick is in the Boston, even though he's in New Hampshire, he's in the Boston DMA. So he's in the northern side of it, but so we're tracking the overall, and things can be very different within the DMA, depending on which end of it you're on.
Okay, well, like you said, Rick is on our call today. I'm going to ask him some questions about his market. He in the top 20 better performing markets, but let's take a look at our lower performers here. Okay, so what do we see here, Len?
Some markets continue to, have a tough go of it. If you look at it, it's kind of scattered all over the country. Tennessee's been reasonably strong, but Memphis is still suffering. Chattanooga, And then as I mentioned, there were a couple markets that were drifting downwards, you know, up in upstate New York, northern part of Michigan, Delaware, and Hawaii. By the way, Hawaii has been strong right through it. They've had very low impact of this, so this may just be seasonality more than anything else in that market. But it's not cut and dry. It's not like, well, New York's bad and Kansas is great. This is a highly localized thing. So though we can take some comfort from the fact that there's been a consistent, steady upward move, and it's very broadly based, what's going on in your market, may be very different. And frankly, Rick, Boston continues to be a challenge market. Sales are down. But he's doing very well. So even though you're in a down market, dealers are there are dealers who are winning. And that's what we saw in 2008, 2009 when things really hit hard. There were winners and losers. The people who got their operations together and really figured out how to prosper in those tough markets, and the ones who didn't keep up and fell further behind. So that's why we give so many layers of this data so people can really drill down to their market, their brand, and soon they'll be able to see even just the at a store level how they're competing versus all the stores, because what you see is these stratified markets, a few stores that are just clobbering it and a bunch of stores that are way behind, and very few stores that are actually at the market average. It tends to be winners and losers, so the average is a misdirection. Some people doing outperforming it and other people are falling behind. There are very few who are just on average. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you mentioned, Rick's in the Boston market. Still, sales are down, yet he had one of his biggest weekends ever this Saturday. Rick, general manager of a Honda store in New Hampshire, tell me, what do you feel like is going on with the market right now? And with your market being so down and you doing so well, what do you attribute that to?
I think there are a couple things. I think, like Len said, there is some pent up frustration with buyers right now, and I think they, at the beginning of the month, everything being so up in the air on what was going on, and as time came along, I think they were just basically frustrated and wanted to continue with their lives. So Saturday, yeah, we had a big day. We sold over 25 cars. That's typically a holiday weekend Saturday for us, not a everyday Saturday. So it was a nice surprise. We've definitely seen an uptake in internet leads, and even some overall volume. So as far as customers coming into the showroom, again, I think a lot of it was some frustration. We've also changed some of our digital marketing. We've marketed more towards what we're doing to help fight the COVID-19 virus in our showroom and in our dealership. So whether or not that made people more comfortable about coming in, it's really a guessing game for that. But we've changed some of our digital marketing too. So.
Okay. So as far as, we're looking at a down market here, but it's not just you had a Saturday. Yesterday was a good day too. So I'm seeing this trend. I'm excited to hear that. And I'm wondering, is this a payment buyer now? Is this somebody that's more focused on a guest experience? What are you seeing?
I think a lot of it has to do with the guest experience. I think it's been that way now for some time. People would much rather come to a place that they feel they're going to get taken care of. Starting with the phone calls to the store, or their internet experience through emails and text messages. I do think that makes a big difference. As far as feeling safe about coming into a facility like ours. You know, that's part of the reason why we changed some of our advertising. So I do think it has something to do with that. I do not think that it's always about the pricing and about the payment. We actually raised our prices so on some things because we're afraid we're going to run out of inventory. So I really do believe that it has more to do with you know, the experience they're going to have here right now than pricing. Not to say that some people don't come in here because of pricing, but I think in the long run, they're more interested in what kind of experience they're going to have.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point to recognize, because when I look at these numbers here, you know, it poses a lot of questions. You know, down markets, why are some dealers doing better than others? You know, is it their advertising? Is it targeting? Is it drilling down? Is it paying attention to, you know, to more details? Our clients tell us they've made a lot of modifications to not only the promotional messaging, but their operations. I think it's a mix of operational and promotion. But, you know, it's something to definitely, you know, have a finger on, because there's some people that aren't doing well. You know, it's your competitors. Some of them aren't doing. What's the difference? You're the same market.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's true. And again, I think it has to do a lot with what kind of experience you're offering your customers and the message that you're sending out, whether it be through TV ads or internet or Facebook even. You know, so I think, you know, people are looking at that. They're paying more attention to it, and it's important that you're sending out the right message right now and giving them the experience that they want.
Yeah, so it's not just sitting back and looking at, you know, your promotions. It's also looking at your operations and just tightening everything up and being ahead of the game, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you know, I think everybody's experienced, you know, having to let people go at their
Mm-hmm.
stores and retaining the people that are really doing a solid job and working hard on a daily basis. And you know, you know, for the business development center, for example, you know, we had to lay off 4 people, but the 4 people that we kept have done an incredible job of converting our leads into appointments, and those leads and appointments are turning into sales. So, you know, it goes back to what kind of experience were they getting on the phone or through the internet. So that tells me that it really does have a lot to do with their experience, not so much the pricing.
Yeah, I have to believe that, because I think now dealers are really kind of toning in on this touchless pickup, delivery, doing things more efficiently, just making, I think the customers' expectations are higher now than ever. But
Right.
congratulations on, you know, being ahead of the game as far as, you know, your processes. I think it's carried you through. It sounds like it anyway. I mean, you're in a tough market right now. It's not quite as bad as New York, but it's certainly not as good as North Carolina. If we can move to maybe take a look at our used cars. What's going on with your used cars?
Yeah, we should go back to used. Here's the used trend nationally.
So, you know, with our
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, I was
so
just
our
going to say,
used cars
used cars have been trailing nationally. You know, the new car, and there's been a lot of noise about, you know how used cars are going to be impacted through this, but you can see a steady recovery there. You know, it's still down 12%, but, you know, there are used cars selling, and it's recovering in this market, so that's good news. So I'm sorry, Rick, over to you.
Yeah, no, not at all. No problem at all. So, you know, we're a big Viato follower, and we follow the processes. We're pretty strict here. Our average turn rate for used cars is anywhere between 14 to 17 turns per year. Our store, our corporation, our company does a great job with used cars. You know, we've had to change things a little bit. You know, with the slowdown from mid-March through April. You know, we can't look at days supply right now or or days in inventory. And I actually instructed the used car manager to raise the prices back up and not lower their prices, because you can't really go by what the last month has been. Saturday is any indication. I mean, we sold 11 new cars and 14 used cars, and that was after we raised the prices. So again, I think the used car market is going to be strong, and I think it's going to be stronger down the road come July, August, because I think some manufacturers are going to be short on supply for new cars. Honda is going to be one of them. Toyota is going to be another one. I mean, you heard me before the webinar started. I was on the phone getting cars. So it's in the long run, I do not think the used car market is going to suffer like they predicted. Could we possibly sell less than the 40 million than that we've averaged over the last few years? Yeah, of course we will. But in the end, I do not think the used car market is going to drop like people have predicted.
So Rick, it sounds like your volumes are strong, and you're in an environment where your gross per unit is coming up nicely. I know it's early days, but how does last weekend sales compare on gross per unit versus what you were doing before this all started?
Yeah, we started focusing more on gross profit instead of volume, probably over a year ago. That was a tough transition, but we did it. It certainly helped our store. It helped our net, in the end. Did we panic a little bit, during the crisis and maybe take some deals that we typically wouldn't? Yeah, we did, because we wanted to make sure the salespeople were still motivated and the managers were still motivated. But in the end, the weekend was a good weekend. The grosses were actually fairly decent. Probably not back up to the level that we were at, but it's a step forward, and I do see that coming back to where we were before. So, before this all started, we had probably one of the biggest months we'd ever had, close, for gross profit. So, I think it's going to come back, and I do think that it is starting to turn around.
That's one thing we saw is March was really strong. It really was snapping back nicely. The first half of March was great, nationally, and so we came into this really strong.
Yeah, it was March was the first 2 weeks of March were incredible. I mean, we were on track. I'm going to say to probably have one of the biggest months this store has ever had. So it all came to an end on March 14th, but it was looking to be incredibly strong. Even the fixed ops end of things were looking to be massive. So unfortunately this all happened, but I do see it starting to come back, and even on the fixed ops end of things.
The one thing we've learned in all of these downturns is you never underestimate Americans and the American consumer and the resiliency.
I agree.
So we got that going for us. I'll tell you, they'll do incredible things if allowed to. So.
Yep.
Well, these are all good indications. I think you got stimulus money out there. You got a lot of vehicles coming off lease this year. We're focusing on trying to get through this month. We got Memorial Day coming up, but we also have to start planning for June and July, and of course quarter three. And we left off on the last webinar looking at this VIN View Optimizer. This is a tool that when I saw, I got super excited about. I started looking at some of our clients' inventory, and I'm going to ask Len to explain what he sees here. But I think, since we're on the topic of used cars, I really want to share this information here as you, again, start thinking about the details of your operations and your promotions and targeting inventory and making sure that, we see a lot of people online. We see the engagement above, pre-COVID in most cases. So we know the customers are out there. We saw the pent up, we felt it, bam, exploded. Now we don't want to let our guard down. We want to watch our inventory, make sure that we're dialed into all these details. Tell us what we're looking at here, Len.
Okay, so we just met Rick for the first time. He's not one of our customers, and so I pulled another Honda store.
Okay.
This is a Southern California Honda store that just kind of show how he's looking in today's market, and sort of demonstrate how the VVO works. This is a tool we came up with a while ago, and it's been one of these secret weapons. Dealers who see this really really respond to it, and use it. Once you kind of see what's in here, I get these dealers saying, "I knew it, but I've never been able to see it before." And what it does is pretty simple. It plots along the bottom here every car in inventory. So these little chiclets at the bottom all represent a unit in inventory, and if you click on it, I got to reload here because I timed out. Give me a second. I should have done this before.
No problem.
Okay,
I want, as you're pulling this back up, Rick, I'm curious what your thoughts are when you see this other dealer's inventory. Go ahead, Len, back up.
Yeah, so what we do is we plot all of the cars he's holding, and it's very easy to sort. So I can look at just my used, my new, my CRVs that have been on lot for over 30 days, 60 days. I mean, there's a lot of sorting, so I can get a picture of what I'm holding. And what our dealers, are focused on is inventory strategies, and not just, marketing strategy, but it's identifying what they need to move to meet their objectives, and then figuring out how to actually move those specific units in their marketing. So you can see I clicked on this unit, and it's a 2020 Honda HRV. It's been on lot 161 days, and it's been only viewed 8 times. And largely, dealers, understand that a car not viewed is a car not sold. You always knew if it's not being shopped, it's not going to sell, it's not going to turn. And so this gives the dealers a way of sorting through and saying, hey, online, which of my units are getting shopped, because those are the units that are turning, And so we put in this holding line of 30 VDP views per month. So that's basically 1 a day. And that's a good rule of thumb. It kind of bounces around depending on the brand and so on. But a good rule of thumb is I should be achieving, at least in my marketing activities, I should be delivering a view a day to the inventory I'm holding. And when I start to reach that, I start to actually reach a tipping point in my turn rates. And as I increase that, my turn rates and my holding cost, go up, my holding cost goes down, and everything gets better. And so you can see this dealer has about a quarter of his inventory that's being adequately viewed. This is both new and used. But if you look at new only, which I'll do here, so let me click on that thing. Why is it doing this to me? There it is. Okay, so this is new only. You can see he's got a bigger issue with his new inventory. Most of it is under engaged. It's not being shopped at the pace he needs to. It falls off very sharply. And I'll go a level deeper. I don't know what your fastest selling unit in your store is, Rick, but I'm going to look at CRVs. So he's holding 43 CRVs, right? And if you can see, if you kind of slide this over, 3 of them are being adequately, shopped, but the rest of them are under engaged. He's just not driving the web engagement that he needs to move those additional units. So 40 of his CRVs are under engaged. So I don't know what Rick's store looks like, but if this were your store, what would you be thinking, Rick?
I'd be a little panicked right now, to be honest with you. I mean, when you look at the cars that aren't engaged, why? I guess is the reason. Is the question. Why aren't these cars being looked at? So is it pictures? Is it something on the website? Is it marketing? I mean, you've got a lot to look at for sure.
Yeah, and this by the way, this is a pretty sophisticated dealer. He does a really good job in a lot of things. And he uses us, by the way, I should say, he ships all used. So his programs with LotLinx are all focused on his used inventory, and he's killing it in used. So he's taking money off. Maybe it's because he anticipates inventory issues like you guys do. But we're not working on his new inventory, and a lot of deals are going that way. But here's the CRV sitting on the lot, 105 days. What's your average hold time for a CRV up there?
We probably have a 90-day supply of CRVs.
Yeah. So he's so here's a car, good car, good color for Southern California white, and you kind of click around here, you see, these under-engaged units. Anyway, what also you can do with this is you can view all sources. So we wire in Auto Trader. So this is an Auto Trader dealer. He's still on Auto Trader. He's on cars.com. He's on, and not on Car Gurus. So he's using those two, and you can see, those, so that the pink or purple is cars.com. Generally the portals are much better. Most of their traffic or the views on their site. Now these aren't views on the dealer site. These are views of his inventory on cars.com. But so you can also look at that view saying, hey, is it being viewed elsewhere? And you can see cars.com delivers, a kind of a view across some of that inventory. Auto Trader, same sort of thing. It starts to, and you can see he's a heavy center in SEM. That's the orange here. So his SEM programs are delivering, some traffic to those VDP views. And there are other tools here embedded in this where he can look at his cost per and his engagement by source. So what dealers like about this is their ability to identify, I've got my strategy and my SEM strategy, and I'll stand behind it and argue with anybody. I've developed it over time. I feel good about it. That being said, I got to move these CRVs. Is SEM helping me? And how much is SEM helping me? Is that the right path for me to take? So if I need to step it up, is SEM delivering? The way that I've got it built, is it delivering to those units? You can see, it doesn't reach all that deeply into his inventory. Or, hey, I'm spending a lot of money with Auto Trader. Is that actually supporting my new car business and specifically my CRVs? It just allows the dealer really to pinpoint, what's delivering to the unit that I need to sell. And, if it's delivering, then okay, maybe I need to spend more to go deeper. But if it's not delivering, maybe I need to shift strategy somehow to get more of these things covered. And as dealers get into this, they realize, hey, when I start delivering engaged traffic to, across my inventory set, my business gets materially better. And that's really the name of the game here. That's when we talk to dealers, they say, hey, I'm, post-COVID, I'm going all low funnel. What they mean by that is I need to be driving, real buyers to real units. I need to be making that connection because that's what's going to generate the click to call, the chat session that's going to then generate the store visit and the sale.
Absolutely.
So that's how dealers use this. And I'm not going to bore everybody with some of the other tools and I've offered this. Listen, I said this last time. This is not a sales pitch. I guarantee you, if you want this set up for you, we'll set it up for you and we will leave you alone. This is not a come on where we're going to hound you to sign up a lot. But I think it's what I've seen thousands of dealers use this and make it a key decisioning tool. And I think when you're trying to figure out how do I compete better in a tougher environment, this is a very valuable tool. And that's why we want to get it out to dealers. Yeah. So we'll set you up, Rick, if you want, so you can look at it and start playing with some of the tools that are in there. There's all sorts of fun stuff in here, which are and I will have one of our strategists, kind of teach you how to use it. It's pretty simple. I mean, this is not a tough thing to get confident with, but we'll give you that support, but we will not give you a sales pitch. I give you my word. And if anybody feels like they got pressure by LotLinx, just let me know. We're just not going to do it. We'll set you up and it's yours to use however you want to use it.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Right. We'll get you going. It's very easy.
It's wonderful to have companies out there that are supporting dealers and doing what they can do to give back, and that's what we're talking about right now. And in my opinion, when I look at this, I see this and I'm like, okay, Memorial Day's coming. What are we targeting? What are we doing for that in preparation? What are we doing in preparation for the months ahead? We're coming out of spring into summer. Just a lot of things to look at here, and if you have one tool that can give you that competitive advantage above your competitors, I believe this is definitely one of them. This is definitely worth looking at. As Lynn said, it was free. I love all of that, and why not? Once you get playing around in there, some light bulbs are gonna go off for you guys. I promise you that. That's why we're doing this here today. So, you have a lot of under-engaged inventory that you can, hone in and really, get it out there so we can prep for to move all those units.
Happy to do it. It's a very easy setup, and just ping us, and we'll make it easy for you. And as I say, what do you got to lose? It's I think you'll find it really useful. So happy to do it. Our mentality is, hey, we know a lot about some things, but we don't know all the things we need to know about your business. About your business. We can just feed you with information and a little bit of guidance, but you're playing three-dimensional chess on your decisions. We can just give you data and leave it to you, and that tends to work for us when we serve our customers that way. So
looks like there's a lot of good information.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
Yeah.
Well, let's
open
this up for
This store is on pace to sell 151 units this month, 94 new and 57 used. And it's the same, everything it's doing with us is on used. So.
Well, look, today we looked at a lot of different changes from last week to this week. We will do the same call next week, look at some of the same numbers, expect to see, some continuous growth from that pent-up demand. It was nice to hear from Rick today. Thank you for spending the time with us. We'd love to hear your insights. Data is one thing, but hearing from somebody that's actually out there doing it is another. It's data, it's people. The things that Rick really contributed, to this conversation that I want to hang on to and hold for a moment is it's not just your marketing and your promotions, but it's also your operations, and bringing the two together really helps strengthen your market share. And that's really what we're trying to get after here. There's a lot of incentives out there. They've just changed. We just have a lot of great things happening out there. But don't forget your website, because once you drive all this traffic there, you want to make sure that you've got your hours updated, your services are updated, all of the sanitizing processes, cleanliness methods that you're focused on are all updated. You're doing at-home deliveries and trade evaluations and doing a lot of new processes that you want to make sure you're promoting your brand, as you continue to drive all this traffic to your site. So a couple of things just to be mindful of. Well, let's wrap this up, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody next week. I am going to look for another dealer that can join us and, look at some different markets with them as well.